Good morning, this is Vaughan at Westcote Bell Pottery in La Have, Nova Scotia. I've been doing a series of tests on Strontium Crystal Magic with other glazes over the top. And so here I'm going to show you some pieces that were fired basically plain, and then I'm going to move over to the kiln where the Strontium Crystal Magic, if you watch the other two videos, was put underneath these glazes and some other glazes too. So let me tilt that down a bit. This is the Strontium Crystal Magic warm, and this is the cold. Okay, you can just see them there. There's a little difference. This is the cold and that was the warm. You can find these recipes on the internet, they're everywhere. And you can see that I put it over a white B-mix and a speckled 455 from Pottery Supply House, manganese dioxide clay. I think it's probably got the the manganese speckles. But anyway, those are the two, and it ran a little bit. This one, it didn't run much, just bubbled a little bit down, and this one, it actually managed to run, and I ground it off a little bit just there, but it ran down a bit. Now, it was put over the entire piece on these, so it actually ran just a little bit, and I was aware of that. So in the glaze tests, I only glazed it halfway down on the outside. The inside, it doesn't have any at all, basically, on the T-balls, but on the bowls it did. There was a copper red glaze, which is obviously turquoise in oxidation. I had Val's turquoise, one called Seafoam, which I really like this one, Seafoam. This is Ohata I found on the internet. This is Randy's Red, fired it in a reduction kiln. And this is Randy Red, fired in oxidation, so it's obviously glossier in oxidation. And then this one is that was Reader's Digest. This one's Randy's Red. So they're very similar. Reader's Digest and Randy's Red off the internet are very similar. And then I have a whole bunch of other glaze tests here on the wall that I've done over the years with blues, greens, and rutile green I've got, and apple green, a couple of blues, dark blue, light, medium blue, and so on. So I've done a bunch of these tests too, because I wanted to see which ones were potentially the super glaze recipe that we're all looking for all the time. And who knows, I mean, this one, let's see if I can get this angled right. All right, you can't really see much there, so I'm going to tilt it over a little bit so you can see the top. And I'll just have to hold them up because they're actually too hard to see inside the kiln and get a decent video here. All right, so this one's fine. You can see the light's not too bad in here. So this was glazed with my glaze that I call number 16, which is like a rutile blue iron glaze, which comes out sort of speckly brown blue. You can see it on the inside. It's kind of hard. It's a darker glaze with a little speckle. But on the outside, now I glazed it with all the same T-balls. This is the same for all of them. So it was done with Strontium Crystal Magic warm on the upper half here. You can just see that like that. So from there to there, and it was basically just dipped like that. So it just went down to that point there. And then the next day, I dipped them. I poured the other glaze, which was number 16 in this case, on the inside, poured it out, and I dipped the whole thing like that into that same glaze number 16. So it's over the top of the Strontium Crystal Magic, which is in this part here. And then I have an oatmeal glaze that I use a lot on a lot of things, so it always makes things better. And then I just dip the rim in the oatmeal just a little bit. And I think you can see the camera in the front of this iPad is hard to figure out where it is. But anyway, it must be right in the corner of the iPad. You can see that there's a little difference where the oatmeal is at the top. And then you've got the area where the Strontium Crystal Magic is. But what's interesting is you have these dribble runs going down, which may be from the oatmeal over the top of the Strontium Crystal Magic. And then the Strontium Crystal Magic basically ran about a centimeter, maybe even a centimeter and a half. So that's a lot of running into the other glaze. That makes me nervous for the other pieces because we'll soon see. But anyway, that's a nice little tea bowl. Let's put the lid of this one down so I can place them on here. Okay, this one ran a little bit. This is, which glaze is this one? This is what I call my apple green, which is basically a clear glaze with some rutile in it and some copper carbonate. And so any clear glaze with some rutile, maybe 5% rutile, and then a couple of percent, or up to, you eat whatever dark green you want, basically. But you can see the raw apple green is over a speckled clay here in the center, and then you can see where the Strontium Crystal Magic was from here down to about there, and it ran down again. So it's very pretty. And on the outside, the same happened again. You've got my oatmeal just on the rim, where you can see that it lightened the rim a little bit, the oatmeal over this apple green. And this one changed a lot. It made it very matte, crystalled quite a bit. The firing schedule is just the Steve Hill firing schedule, which means I soak at 1750 Fahrenheit on the way down for an hour. Oh, this ran a lot. Which one is this? Val's, oh no, Variegated Blue. Now this glaze does run on its own anyway, so I have to be careful when I glaze with variegated, but that's beautiful on the inside. So basically you got the oatmeal at the top again, the Strontium Crystal Magic in the upper half, and then the Variegated Blue on the inside. And the Strontium Crystal Magic has made the Variegated Blue run all the way down to the center. So it really fluxed it all. It has a beautiful stone. Look how much it ran. A beautiful stone. And these are those shelves, again, that I've mentioned before, that the piece just lifts off. It doesn't stick to the kiln shelf when they run. So they're called advancer shelves. I get them from Bailey in New York. But that's beautiful stone. It doesn't feel horrible. I mean, it's actually, you can feel it has a sheen to it. So that's kind of interesting. What do we have here? This is beautiful. This one ran too, but not as much. So this is the number 16 that the tea ball was in, which is basically some iron and some rutile again in a clear glaze with a little bit of cobalt. Number 16, I call that one. But that's really pretty. Lots of crystals formation in the glaze there, and it ran down, but not as much over the number 16. And that number 16 is so close to Variegated Blue, which is actually, you'll see that Variegated Blue in recipes on the internet too. This is very similar to a crystal blue that I have as well, this number 16 glaze, but I don't have any iron in the crystal blue. But anyway, that's very pretty. Same idea, oatmeal top, Strontium Crystal Magic down halfway, and then the regular glaze here, but it ran over the number 16 almost all the way down except for there. So we got to be aware of that with the Strontium Crystal Magic. I will definitely be using this in some glazes, but mostly probably on the outside of forms. This is number 16 again over the Speckled Clay, and this one didn't run to the bottom. All glazed in the same way, so that's interesting. I wonder if the Speckled Clay has a less fluxing ability than the B-Mix. But the inside is really pretty. Alright, so This one ran a lot too. Evergreen. This is my more copper in the same apple green glaze, but to make it darker. And this one ran a lot. So, but look at all the crystals in the glaze. Just got to be aware of this. Now I'm wondering if my oatmeal had something to do with making it run more. I don't know. Could do a test where I don't use the oatmeal on the rim. But I think the oatmeal made it this sort of matte color, which is, it's a matte oatmeal glaze, like a semi-matte. So there we go. And the oatmeal I use basically looks great over any glaze I put it on. Another running one, the evergreen on the white clay, this time the B-mix. Isn't it great that they just lift off the kiln shelf when you actually have them run like this? That's why I think these kiln shelves will save money in the end. There's the evergreen. You can see it's a darker green. And actually, it's interesting because it didn't do much in this part here, running down. The oatmeal looks like it did more than the Strontium Crystal Magic on this glaze. Do I have a... There you go, I'll show you with this. There's a little glaze left on the shelf here, and that's all you do. It just knocks it right off. So that's why I think these shells will save you money. Okay, what do we have here? This one didn't stick to the shelf. What do I have on this one? This is my dark blue glaze. And it's a transparent glaze with cobalt oxide, and it did not go as dark as I thought, maybe because I didn't glaze it as long in the dark blue, but it is very pretty. Has a matteness and a shiny area, and you can see the oatmeal at the edges, then it has the Strontium Crystal Magic, and then you've got the where it ran over the blue, but it almost got to the bottom, but you don't have much left of the dark blue, although you can see the texture where I flute the outside of the bowl. You can see how it run like that, and on the inside it's almost got a yellowish tinge, and there's no yellow in my oatmeal glaze. It's tin oxide and titanium dioxide that I put in my oatmeal. This will be a long video if you want to stop it and go get coffee, unless you don't want to watch it, but we never know what we're going to get. This is the dark blue glaze over speckled clay. So this one does not make the Strontium Crystal Magic run as much. So some glazes are fluxing it more, but that's really pretty. Alright, dark blue, Strontium Crystal Magic with oatmeal on the rim. So you can see, if I can hold it in the light, it's kind of difficult. Yeah, there you go, that's a good angle. So oatmeal on the top edge, then the Strontium Crystal Magic, and then the dark blue down the bottom, and all that. Which actually looks a bit green over the speckled clay. This is, well, that's a shame because that's a nice tea bowl, but it ran. This is the apple green, which it ran on the bowl too. I can grind these off a little bit on that corner there. But that has a very nice surface. So this is basically just a transparent glaze with some apple, with some copper carbonate and some rutile, 5% rutile and maybe 2-3% of the copper carbonate. I don't remember my recipe, but you can do that glaze with any amount of copper carbonate, depending on how dark or green you want. This one did not run, and this is the evergreen glaze again, which is actually, get the angle right, got the crystals forming in it again. So that's definitely, some of my base glazes are actually running more. The base glaze is always the one on the inside. It's hard with the light to see the inside, but it's kind of a green, shiny green on the inside. Now this ran a little bit, and this one is Variegated Blue, which is another recipe you can find on the internet, and it's really pretty. But notice how they have a satin feel to them, so there's a shine to them. Strontium Crystal Magic on its own is very matte feeling, and you've got more of the Variegated Blue down in the center there. That's in that Cone 6 Glaze book, but it's all over the internet too. This one ran too. This is a very fluxy glaze, I guess, then, when it's put out, other things are put over the top of it. But it's really nice. Apple green. No, this is a modified apple that I did. So it's another apple that I decided to mix two glazes together. And it still comes out very similar to the apple green, but it's got a little kind of, I don't know what you would say, slightly different, that's all. But they're very similar glazes, but it's very pretty glaze. When I modify glazes after I've used them for a few years, I'll sometimes put two buckets together, if there's only a little bit left of each one, and just see what happens. But I don't do two opposite glazes, obviously they'd be two similar greens or something, but matte, but not really matte, satin, and then more shiny on the inside. And this is apple, just regular apple. Let's see if I can do that. Which was that? Apple modified. I was trying to see if I can find the other apple glaze. That's the evergreens. Yep, this is just my regular apple. See how much so similar to the other one. Put the two together. That one's just a little smoother, and this is my apple modified. This is the apple rather. This is the apple modified. Actually, I like this one better. Never be able to get this glaze again though, because I mixed two together. This is Mouse Brown, I think they call it in that Cone 6 book. And this one ran a lot too, but lifted right off the kiln shelf. This one is sort of more even. I'm surprised at that, because it tends to be a little bit more, but this one looks very even as far as the color. And you can still see the oatmeal did make a difference on the rims. Just lightened it a lot. This is the Speckled Clay. Same as this one, only on the Speckled Clay, once again, the B-Mix may be doing something, because a lot of the B-Mix ones are run, and yet the same glaze, B-Mix, Speckled Clay, and on the Speckled Clay it isn't running as much. So that shows you how the interaction in a firing between clay and glaze actually does have quite an influence. So it's basically the mouse gray or brown, which is in that Cone 6 book, with the Strontium Crystal Magic and Oatmeal on the rim. So the Speckled Clay seems to be working better as far as the running. This one did not run. This is apple modified. There you go. Okay, next layer down. This one is Seafoam, and this recipe is Pinnell's Seafoam. I think the glaze was on the internet. I think Pinnell Seafoam. See how it ran, but it didn't run down as much. And it's on the Speckled Clay again, so we'll see what the one does on the white B-Mix. The oatmeal has not done as much on the rim on these. It lightened it a little bit, but you can see right through it, it seems. But that's very pretty, obviously. Very pretty pot. This is the fake ash recipe, and that is really nice. On Speckled Clay, it didn't run again. On the inside is just my oatmeal glaze. You can see what it looks like on its own in there. So that was I think I will, it has changed my oatmeal for sure. But my oatmeal on its own is a little different. Actually, my oatmeal does not make the speckles run, but on the Strontium Crystal Magic, it has sucked the speckles out of the clay a little bit and made the manganese run down a little bit. Okay, this is Speckled Clay again. And the oatmeal. No, fake ash over oatmeal again. Fake ash over Strontium Crystal Magic with oatmeal on the rim. I'm getting too confusing. That's a nice glaze combo. Oh, this is the fake ash over the B-Mix clay with the Strontium Crystal Magic underneath, fake ash on top, oatmeal on the rim. And that's very pretty. I will be making a large bowl with this on. It's a very minimal, beautiful glaze combo there. Almost touched the kiln shelf, but not quite. But that's over the B-Mix, so that's interesting. That's the first one with the white clay that hasn't ran that much. Oh, this one ran big time, and this is white clay again. And this is turquoise matte, which is I got off the internet too, over the top of Strontium Crystal Magic, and it ran big time and made a lot of crystals. And on the outside, I've got some grinding to do. If I want to keep these, they're tests. But I'm going to knock the sharpness off them because I will be keeping them as tests. I usually put holes in the middle to actually hang them on the wall. I can just glue them to a board, I guess. Yeah, Speckled Clay, and the same one. Did I not tell you what that one was? That was, oh, I did, turquoise matte. Oh, this is the turquoise matte. That one was turquoise matte over the Strontium Crystal Magic. And this is the Seafoam again over Strontium Crystal Magic. I love the runs when they don't go to the floor. That one's easy to grind. That'll be a quick one. But I've got to keep them because I have the information on them. Another run. But it's very even. This one ran very even. But when you've got that much running on a piece, you can only glaze to the halfway point on the pot, just about. It's probably easy to knock this off. But isn't that amazing how it ran? But I love the inside of that. So this one is Seafoam again. That one was the Seafoam over Speckle. And this is the Seafoam over B-Mix. I searched Seafoam on the internet. It came up as Pinel's Seafoam anyway. These two did not run. And this is my copper red glaze. And this is the copper red. And they did not run either white clay or the speckled clay. And it has quite a texture to the outside of this one. You can see the little bumps. They're not sharp, they're just a texture. So copper red glaze means it's got a little tin in there and some copper oxide, maybe 1% copper oxide, maybe even 0.5% copper oxide. And then I think it was about 2.5% tin in this glaze. And it comes out red in the gas kiln. You'll see that in my last video, I guess, or one of the last ones. But the oatmeal made a difference on this one. Another run on the white clay. This is apple again. So I have apple and apple modified glaze here, but it's basically the same glaze. They're very pretty. Just got to do something about all these runs. Okay, this one didn't touch the kiln shelf. What do we have on this one? This is really pretty. A lot of texture. Turquoise matte over speckled clay. So just look up on the internet turquoise matte and you'll find that glaze recipe. This one has a little pinholing. They're not sharp, but there's some pinholing there. And yet it didn't run as much. But look at that, that's really pretty. And this one didn't run either. This is Val's turquoise. That's very pretty too. So you'll find that one under Val's turquoise. I downloaded a whole bunch of turquoise recipes. Wow, look at those runs. That's pretty when they do that and they don't touch the kiln shelf. This one did touch the kiln shelf. This is Val's on the white clay. So this is the Val's on the speckled clay. And this is the Val's on the white clay, which is pretty, but obviously the B-Mix once again has done something interacting with the glazes and made them flux more. I wonder if B-Mix is a cone 5 clay and I've got a cone 6 to 8 white clay that I use sometimes, and I wonder if the white wouldn't do this. Well, this is very pretty tea bowl. Nice runs, but not too far. Speckled clay, turquoise matte. And it's got a sheen to it. It's not totally matte, that's for sure. And there's my oatmeal on the inside. This is the FMG. I'm not even sure what FMG was. Which one of my glazes is that? Oh. I'll have to look that one up. I'll get back to you on that. I've forgotten which one of those glazes it is. I didn't have room to write it properly on there, so maybe it's written better on the bowl. Okay, this is the dark blue glaze again on the tea bowl. We've seen this one. That's very pretty. The dark blue is a transparent dark blue that on the speckled clay looks a bit green. Blue, green, copper, red. This is my favorite glaze for the gas kiln because it really comes out variegated red rather than looking a bit plastic, because I have another one that tends to look a bit plastic. There it is on the inside, coming out quite turquoise on speckled clay. But turquoise over Val's turquoise over speckled clay. Oh, look at that. I gotta remember this side of the camera. It's an iPad Pro that I bought to do these. Somebody wanted to know what I was using. I have a regular iPad, and then I decided to use up my points on my Visa card, and I got an iPad Pro for free. There you go. Now, iron glazes. The first ones of those. That is very pretty. What do we have? I forgot to write it on the bottom. It looks like Randy's Red on the outside there, or it could be the Reader's Digest Red, because I have those two that look the same. But the iron has a satin look, and then when it's on its own, it's just the regular Randy's Red, I guess. But I've got Randy's Red, I've got tomato or ketchup red off that I've been testing, and I also have this Reader's Digest Red that I got off the internet too. That I like that on the outside for sure. I think I probably forgot to write it on the iron glazes. Yep, I did this one too. This is the Speckled Clay, though. Same. No, they're both speckled. So let's see, what's the difference here? They look the same. That's why I say my Randy's Red, Ketchup Red, and Reader's Digest Reds are very similar. And those two are different glazes, but they look the same. So that the iron really did not make it run either. That was really nice. No running whatsoever. Interesting. Iron is a flux in reduction and a refractory in oxidation. Obviously this is oxidation, so this is the rutile green that I have, and on the speckled clay it's an amber color. Rutile green is actually in the Cone 6 glaze book. And this is licorice, which is in the Cone 6 glaze book as well. So it's a black glaze, and it didn't do anything much over the licorice, over the top of the Strontium Crystal Magic, except for where I fluted this. You've got these little white edges to the glaze where it runs off the edge a little bit, and then the oatmeal on the top. Actually, the oatmeal on the top did do a nice reaction. Hey, if you watch all this video, you must be bored. This is actually not... Which one would this be? This is basically... I think this is Harris Tenmaku. And the rutile over the top did a nice change to it. Yeah, I forgot to write it on that. Tenmaku glazes. Turquoise again. This is my copper red. That has the one with the bubble, with the little textural bubbles a little bit, but they're not sharp. They haven't burst or anything, but... Okay, licorice, I bet. Yeah, licorice. And it ran a little bit, but not too bad. But it really came out pretty on the bowl itself. Not so much on the tea bowl. The oatmeal ran into it. There you go. I think we've only got one layer to go after this. Licorice again on the speckled clay. Got some nice textural elements to the black. Because on its own, this is just a black glaze and it's a little boring. Oh no, there's 2 layers to go. Whoa. Oh, this one ran too bad because it's really pretty. This is Waxing Brown off the Cone 6 book. That's very pretty. And on the outside too. That's one I'm going to use again. That's definitely a keeper, but we've got to figure out how not to glaze as far down on the outside. And it's run a lot, so. And on the speckled clay, it didn't. So we are definitely going to be doing this combination on speckled clay. and rather than the B-mix. But I will try, my next tests will not be on B-mix, they will be on that cone 6 to 8 white clay that I also buy. But that's very pretty. So that's basically, you've got, remember it was the Strontium Crystal Magic over the upper half, then it was glazed in waxing brown all the way down to the foot, and then the oatmeal put on the top. So that's very pretty. White clay with the Ohata glaze, and I was right about the other piece was Ohata, but look at that. So that is also a keeper. The inside is gorgeous. Wow. Playing with that. Oh wow, that is really, that's the best one out of the batch so far. And the iron glazes do not make the Strontium Crystal Magic run. This is over the Ohata with Speckled Clay, so got the similar things to the last piece, but not quite as much. A little tea bowl. A bit more even than the bowls, but it's the Randy's Red. I did write that one on here. Yeah, and I was right about the other bowl too. That was the same look on that bottom area as the Randy's Red and the bowl. So I'll be able to write these on the other ones later. But it's got a nice texture. This one ran 2, but that's very pretty. And this is the rutile green that I have on the white clay. If I do these on bowls, I'll probably end up glazing without the Strontium Crystal Magic on the outside and just do it on the inside. For bowls, you mostly see the inside of a bowl like that anyway, and then glaze just with the base glaze on the outside, so we won't have the running on the outside. Because just about everyone with the copper is running. But that's really pretty on the inside. And this one is blue-green copper red, my base copper red glaze for the gas kiln. But look at that, it's ice blue now. But wow, what running. This one only ran a little bit, and this is the rutile green like the other one, but on the speckled clay. So once again, the speckled clay is basically holding the glaze more, creating less fluxing. I know that porcelains actually will flux into the glaze a lot more, and B-mix is very similar feel to a porcelain, so it is actually bleeding its fluxing ability into the glaze. But the speckled clay like this one didn't do as much. There's a tiny little run there, that's the only one. Blue-green copper red over speckled clay. And this one ran a little bit twice there, so I can grind those off. But it is less spectacular than the one on the white clay. This is a good batch of glaze tests for future reference. Last shelf. I could have told you to eat your dinner while you were doing this. Oh well. It was pretty much saving the best for last. Okay, what do we have here? Tenmaku Gold. This recipe is also on the internet, and that's very pretty, but it ran, and this is on the speckled clay. So the iron fluxed which is the opposite of what it should do. It should be refractory in oxidation, so that's interesting. But the inside is gorgeous. Tenmaku Gold over Strontium Crystal Magic in the upper half and then Oatmeal on the edge. I hope I don't blow your socks off with this one. And this one is Harris Tenmaku. That one's all over the internet as a recipe too, over the Strontium Crystal Magic, but we have to do it without the Strontium Crystal Magic on the outside, because that's what's going to happen. This one is intense. Tenmaku Gold over white clay. Now, can you imagine that on a large bowl in the center of a table? Whoa. But it's got to not have any strontium on the outside. But that's what they'll look like on the inside. That is intense. But the iron is definitely fluxing this glaze. This one is Randy's Red. The Tenmaku Gold one is the best one, I think, but these are all nice. But we've just got to not do any more strontium on the outside. But that's what this pandemic has done. It's given us time to play with things so we don't feel pressure. Okay, this is Speckled Clay, and it didn't run. And this is Randy's Red. Was that last one Randy's Red? Yeah, Randy's Red over white clay did that, and over Speckled Clay did that. Totally the same glazing and everything, but you can see the color's better on this one over the white clay, but it holds better on the Speckled Clay. The inside is less intense, but still really pretty. I'd be really happy with that one if I hadn't seen the other one. So, Randy's Red. This one ran a little bit, but it is beautiful. This is the tomato or ketchup red. There we go. I would never have done this if I'd got regular kiln shelves, because, or I'd be, depressed, because every shelf has runs on it, but basically they all just come right off. This is tomato ketchup red over Speckled Clay. It's very pretty, and it held, so you don't have to worry about running. And if you could see this in a really well photographed piece, you'd see there's some beautiful textures in there. Can you get, I don't know how close you can get to an iPad before it's out of focus. Isn't that pretty? This is really pretty too, and it held as well. Harris Tenmaku. Let's get it close again. So upper half Strontium Crystal Magic, dipped completely in the Harris Tenmaku, and then the oatmeal just put on the rim. And the oatmeal made this spectacular. My oatmeal is, if you put an oatmeal over any gloss glaze, it will give you a nice textural. But it's got to have some tin and also some titanium in it, because I started with just tin, and it's a very expensive mineral, so I put titanium in my oatmeal and it works really good. I also put titanium in my copper red glaze. Ooh. These did not run. It almost looks like leather, but it's shiny. This is Speckled Clay And this one is Harris again. Harris on its own is very boring. You can't really see. I'm not happy with it as a simple glaze, but with these other things on the top of it, it makes it really pretty. I try not to glaze 3 layers of glazes on pieces anywhere near the bottom, generally anyway, because they do run. I usually put just 1 glaze on the bottom of a piece. Oh, I guess that was it. This is the last one. This one is Tenmaku Gold. There you go. Maybe it was a bit out of focus, too close. Tenmaku Gold. There you go. Tenmaku Gold, last piece. I didn't break anything. Okay, all right. So just to recap, it's Strontium Crystal Magic dipped in the upper half of each piece, on the inside of the bowls as well as the outside, and on the tea bowls it was not put anywhere on the inside. And then I took all my other base glazes and dipped them completely in that. And then when they came out, I held them by the foot and just dipped the rim in the oatmeal and all that. And that's resulted in all of that. So there's a lot of stuff I'm going to go through there to actually try and do a whole group of pieces in each color that I decide I want to continue with. Every one of them has a huge amount of potential. The biggest thing we learned is you make sure when you use Strontium Crystal Magic, you do not glaze it much on the outside of a piece, because it seems to create running, and especially on high fluxing clay bodies like porcelain or B-mix, seems to make it run a lot more. Speckled clay less so. But I will try this. You know, now I've done all this, I can add a few tests in every firing I do at this point. This is oxidation firing electric kiln as well. All right, sorry I took up a lot of time. It's 47 minutes. I had never done one this long. Shall I have an alarm bell on these that go off at the end so you can wake up? All right, thanks very much. This is Vaughn during a pandemic, and I hope you can find something to keep you busy over the winter and keep us all motivated. All right, so keep going. Pots are us. All right, thanks very much. Bye.